Hello, and welcome to another edition of Last Week in DeFi. This week, I'm slightly sick, so hopefully I sound okay. But more importantly, things are back back swinging. It's kind of like another week after the New Year's, and projects are actually announcing stuff and launching stuff, and yeah, there's some cool things going on. So let's get into it. For the launches last week, I think the biggest one for me personally was going to be FX Protocol. Yeah, full disclosure, we are actually sponsored, or actually, to be more accurate, the newsletter is sponsored by FX Protocol. This podcast is not. This podcast does not actually have any sponsors. If you want to sponsor us, let us know. So this is not a sponsor. So the disclosure is that the newsletter is sponsored by FX, but since this podcast is not sponsored by FX Protocol, I'm actually speaking my thoughts here. So anyways, FX Protocol is kind of has been around for a while now, and we really like it at Today in DeFi. We spotted it early on and talked about it last year. The original version was kind of innovative because it introduced a kind of oh crap, that might not be the right. I can't quite see it here, but basically it introduced a kind of actually decentralized leverage protocol. Yeah, so you know, like there's a lot of protocols out there. Some of them are decentralized, some are not. FX Protocol introduced kind of like leverage tokens in a way which is quite decentralized. So they split things up into where you can either trade. Let me see if I can pull up FX Protocol V1. There's got to be a way to access V1. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Okay, so you can see it here. Basically, you would deposit ETH, and then you can get like one part would be stable coins, one part would be this leveraged long token, and you can mint this and basically get leveraged token on ETH. And it was really cool, but one kind of a drawback with it is that this leverage would actually fluctuate based on the price of ETH. So you can have so for leverage traders it was difficult because you were not sure what your leverage would actually be. So that was kind of I guess the flaw with V1, but they seem to have fixed that with V2. They say they're using flash loans, so now you can actually with V2 you can just like mint leverage tokens with USD or ETH or whatever you want. You can get a fixed leverage, so the leverage won't really like fluctuate on you as ETH price moves. And so it's just like a much easier to use, much more straightforward version of the protocol. It fixes a lot of the the main flaw with their previous protocol, which is that variable leverage. And it also makes the user experience like way better. And the way they do it, because the central I guess invariant that they're using is that when you at least in the previous version, when you mint like a certain amount, like 1 ETH of FX Protocol, like the amount of leverage tokens and the amount of USD should add up to the amount of the collateral. It's like an invariant, like a mathematical formula. So the question is, if here in V2, if you're only minting like leverage tokens or USD, how do they pull that off? Like, where's the other part of that going? And the answer is they're doing a flash loan where if you use 1 ETH to mint 1 ETH of leverage at 4x, then they would also mint a bunch of FXUSD at the same time, and then they would sell that into the liquidity pool, and then pay that flash loan back. So it actually is minting this the stablecoin part of it in the back end, but you're not seeing that. So it's an interesting design. It requires it depends on the liquidity pool, and they also have another mechanism which I think is actually meant to kind of like rebalance that liquidity situation, which is the stability pool. So the other side of this protocol is that you can earn pretty good yield with FXUSD. So I think you can either mint this or you can buy it, and then you can, right now the APR is like really good. And yeah, so it's a really interesting protocol. You can get fixed, like easy long-term leverage, and when you mint these, I believe you don't have to pay any funding fees or anything. The main risk, from my understanding, is that if the price of ETH like drops a lot, I think at like maybe 50% or something, I think your position gets rebalanced, so your exposure might change. I think that's the main difference. But for the most part, within reasonable parameters, I believe there's low liquidation risk and also no funding fees, which sounds really good. So I would take a look at this. I haven't done a thorough protocol analysis. This is just based on some looking at this protocol. But yeah, from what I can tell, this is pretty cool stuff. Okay. The next interesting protocol last week is SyncSwap. So SyncSwap is kind of like a Uniswap or DEX on, where did that go? On ZK Sync, which is a ZK rollup. And they have a new version. This new version has more types of pools. So, classic pools, they have V2 pools, Uniswap V2 pools. They have stable pools. This is similar to Curve. They have something called Aqua pools. This is kind of interesting. So Aqua pools, they're saying, are automated LPs. So I imagine they're a little bit more concentrated, but they are still automated. So you can passive LP in them, and I imagine the IL should hopefully be relatively low, or at least that's what they're saying. And now they also have range pools, so these seem like they should just be typical concentrated liquidity Uni V3 pools. So yeah, ZK Sync, we've been looking at tracking the stats. Seems to be doing pretty decently for a ZK rollup. And yeah, just another upgrade for one of the leading dexes on that chain. Yeah, lastly, a small piece of news from our side. We don't really concentrate that much on AI stuff, but Akash is kind of like a more legit AI protocol. They're decentralized compute, and they launched like this DeepSeek, which is like an LLM running on Akash. I guess my question, as a I'm not that into AI, at least not in terms of crypto AI stuff. My question would be like, what is the competitiveness of this compared to, like, why would I use this instead of GPT-4 or Claude? But it is cool that this is possible on Akash, so nice to see. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for the launches. For the updates, probably the major one, let's clear out some tabs. Probably the major one is this FTX. This was announced a while ago, but it happened recently, and the FTX claims are being paid back. The first notable thing is this number. This is like a lot of money, obviously, $16 billion. The other part is that these payments are happening in stablecoins. So that's quite good, because you can imagine, like, people have been worrying about Mt. Gox for ages because that was being paid out in BTC, and then to realize those gains, people would have to sell their BTC. But here, FTX is paying out in stablecoins. I think claimants are actually getting back like 100%, or in some cases more than 100% because of interest, which is pretty awesome. Although the bad side is that they're getting paid back in the USD amount of their claim, not the crypto amount. But still, for the rest of us, it's relatively good news because this is potential inflows for crypto, imagining that these people will probably buy crypto with some of this money. Okay, yes, pre-deposits. I guess it's more of a airdrop news, but it's probably also interesting. Frax Finance. We reported on this last week, and this is just progressing that. Hyper staking. And RateX. Yeah, this is quite cool. RateX is a Pendle type of, not exactly a fork, because I don't think it's that easy to fork EVM stuff onto Solana. You sort of have to rewrite it. But it's a kind of like a, it's the Pendle of Solana. So you can yield trade on Solana, you can do PTs and YTs, and it's quite interesting. It's kind of like Pendle done in a Solana way, where you can see they have like this nice parrot walkthrough. It's super like it's done in a very, I really like some parts of Solana culture where like they really respect user experience. Like they make things really easy, really clear. Like Ethereum projects should really take some notes here, because a lot of projects on Ethereum, like I can use them no problem, but then like if you just give like a normal person that interface, like they would have no idea what to do. But here, like you could be a normal person, you could like probably figure this out. Yeah, so yeah, it has all the same kind of features and things that you can do as Pendle, but the difference is that yeah, it's more user friendly. I think they made it also like a little bit more degen friendly. Like you have like this chart and stuff. I mean, Pendle has that too, but this is more. This almost feels like you're perp trading or something. It has like this live chart you can scroll. Also on here you have charts and stuff, so it's good. And if you can't see these are very good yields. So yeah, it's a good project to look at. Yeah. All right, Balancer. Origin's doing Stark staking. Usual is having a fee switch. I think that's it for the updates. And for upcoming news, this is kind of interesting. There's a protocol called T protocol, which I haven't heard of before, but apparently it's like a decentralized GitHub thing. So I have two comments about this. First of all, I would say that I don't like that it's really marketing its TGE. Like for me, the more legit projects that I like are like Uniswap, where they almost didn't want to launch a token at first, and then they got kind of squeezed into it by SushiSwap. But here, like if a project is too eager to launch its token, I'm a little bit wary. But still, it's the idea. Like I would say, like I'm not sure I would ape this myself, but it still might be a decent protocol to, I don't know, farm, airdrop farm, or try, because the idea is pretty decent. And if you're a developer, it seems like you can actually farm some points as well. It like connects to your GitHub and stuff, and yeah, looks very slick. Is it actually that functional? I'm not sure. I logged into it and it doesn't seem that functional right now, from what I can tell. So I don't know. I would be careful about investing in this, but I do think this could be worth farming, and this kind of genre of a decentralized GitHub is actually pretty decent. There's another protocol called RateX, which was doing this before. And yeah, if we're going to see stuff move beyond DeFi or meme coins, then this is one area which is kind of interesting. All right, let's see what else we got. Unichain. So yeah, Uniswap is teasing Unichain and also UniV4. UniV4 has hooks, is the main thing. So there's a bunch of projects which are kind of dependent on that. And then Unichain is its own L2 where they're trying to recapture the MEV that Uniswap users are leaking to the block builders and searchers and stuff. So it could be a small catalyst for Uni, actually a major catalyst for Uni, but probably mostly priced in at this point. But yeah, you never know because the timing's always uncertain, so there's some catalyst effect there still. Sparkland. Okay, yeah, airdrops. This is kind of cool. So this kind of came out of nowhere, but a project called Slinky did a massive airdrop to a ton of Solana addresses, 27 million addresses. And this is really impressive because of this first comment, which is talk about a marketing strategy, airdropping 27 million wallets costs $10 per wallet. So as you can see, this would be a shitload of money. So what is Slinky? It's like a ZK compression project, and they have compressed tokens, and that means they can distribute these tokens much more cheaply. So they've kind of like marketed their own project through their airdrop, which I think is just a pretty smart way to do things. And yeah, check your wallets. You might have this. Foxy, okay. Paraswap, man, it feels like this. I can't believe this project is still alive, but apparently it is, and they're doing a decent amount of revenue. Kind of okay. Sonic. This is a different Sonic than the other Sonic. It's kind of confusing, but there's like two Sonics right now. One is the Phantom pivot, and the other is this SVM. Yeah. Some stuff happening with Jupiter, and then Drift is. This is probably relatively big because Drift is a significant protocol on Solana. They announced that their airdrop will happen in 2025. I guess the season 2 or the fuel, whatever you want to call that. So that's going on. Drift is pretty cool. There's some decent vaults on it. We talked about it in previous episodes, so it could be worth using. And then our farm section this week is pretty good as well. So let's see. Some stuff on Sweeland. And USDA is offering 50% APY. It's pretty amazing. I think this is some kind of BTC Fi project. Yeah, I haven't used it myself, so I would, do your own research. But if that's real, that's obviously very, very juicy. Cool, and yeah, that's mostly it. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. It was a really big week. To be honest, like our industry is getting to the point where like most regular weeks are kind of like this, where tons of stuff is happening. It's really cool to see. It's also hard to keep up. That's why we have this Last Week in DeFi. And we also have a newsletter version of this podcast now. It's at weekly.todayindefi.com. We also have the podcast links here. And it's just like basically a text version of this podcast. The content is slightly different. It's a little bit more, I guess, less subjects and a little bit more detail about each subject. So check that out. And yeah, there's you can find all this. Oh yeah, we're gonna add the weekly to the website, but you can find most of our stuff on our website, our daily newsletter. So if you want to stay up to date on everything I talk about on a daily basis, you can check that out. We have some articles on Twitter. We have like this premium content where we release like farms and good airdrops, and sometimes we talk about protocols which are good to use but also may have an airdrop. And our most popular site pages right now are like this airdrops page and the event calendar page, where these are the recent airdrop claims, the upcoming ones. It's a super useful site. And the event calendar, like upcoming tradable events or upcoming events that you should be aware of. So yeah, hope you enjoy that. Not financial advice, although you may accidentally make money off some of this stuff. And yeah, see you next week.